Hey everybody, today is going to be a little bit of a different format. I'm going to talk to you about a situation that arose on a TikTok account that I started and a post that I made, sort of this us versus them mentality that came about in the comments. NPs, nurses versus physicians, and it was heated, y'all, heated. So I'm going to show you the TikTok and then we're going to talk about the ramifications that come from this. I think it's really important, especially, I advise a lot of nurses who are looking to go back to school. You guys really need to pay attention to this commentary before you make any decisions because it should impact the decisions that you make. If we haven't met yet, my name is Bree. I'm a nurse practitioner. I make content for nurses, NPs, and students. Welcome. All right, so here's the tea. I set up a TikTok account a couple weeks ago. It's done very well. I've been very pleased with the interaction I've had from it. And about a week or so ago, a physician that works in critical care created a stitch post where he says, well, I'll show you the video in a little bit, but he asks for people to respond to it. And the overall point that I was trying to make is that as an APP, there are a handful, not many, but there are a handful of physicians who just don't allow APPs to practice to the full extent of their scope, that they sort of want to just work with APPs in the format of, having someone write their notes for them. They want a note jockey and not much else. And once you become confident and competent as an APP, that's very disheartening to do nothing but write notes all day because I'm qualified to do so much more than that. In the world of critical care, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about working in clinic. I'm talking about critical care. What I do, that's the world that I know. There are none of us who work independently. We all are in collaboration with a physician and require oversight from a physician. These are human lives and these are the sickest of the sick. So I don't know any APPs who desire to work without collaboration from a physician. But in collaboration with a physician, I can see a patient, work them up, admit them, make diagnoses, order tests, order treatments, perform procedures, talk with families, make a plan of care in conjunction with a physician. Absolutely. And I hope that if there are any physicians watching this, that my message was not vague in that. I would never want to practice independently in this role. But with proper oversight and a good relationship, I feel more fulfilled when I can perform all of these tasks, not just note writing. And there were a couple of people who commented in my post that, you shouldn't diss note writing. That's a part of everybody's work. Please don't mistake that either. I enjoy writing notes. All of my students, if any of my students are watching this, put a comment down below because you all know I am super OCD about my notes. I take a huge amount of pride in my note writing. And I think it is ultimately what guides our care. It means a lot to me. I just feel stifled when all I'm doing is note writing. And that was my intent behind the post that I made. Put this out there into the world, and a lot of physicians, nurses, and NPs responded with each other like this. And when I tell you they came at me, y'all, they came at me. I made a follow-up post to it where I talked about my background because it seems like a lot of the arguments were targeted towards NPs who are direct entry NPs who go through school without ever having worked and then come out of school wanting independent practice, which is not me. I don't support that. So I made a follow-up video kind of trying to illustrate that, but the wording was rather vague, and y'all, it got 17, 18,000 views before I took it down because the vitriol being spewed from both sides of this argument does not in any way help bridge the gap between these two parties, and I found it very disheartening, so I had to take it down. All right, so let me pause here. I'm going to show you the video and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it, okay? Some of it constructive, a lot of it not. So let's just scroll through and I'm going to show you the comments. I'm going to let you watch the video and then I'm going to show you the comments. And then we'll come back to the studio here and talk about it.
Tell me something that doctors do in your hospital that drives you absolutely crazy.
Man, I hate it when doctors don't let me practice to the full extent of my scope as a nurse practitioner, because if we've had a minute to work together and you've assessed my training and my skill set and you still just want me to write your note, well, let's go hire you a scribe, because that doesn't spark joy in my heart. Luckily, I am very blessed to work in a place where this is not really a problem, but I've seen it and I've been places where it does happen, and it is not a desirable place to work for most people.
Something that doctors do.
So there were quite a few physicians like this first one that were supportive, but that bring up some very good points. This comment right here: until the AANP standardizes NP education and gets rid of fully online and direct BSN NP programs, it's going to look bad on everybody. So there were a lot of physicians who made comments, in this regard, in some format. Some of them respectful, like this person, some of them outright aggressive and nasty. Quite a few physicians saying that I should be a doctor if I want to practice like a doctor, which is not at all what I said, but that's the way they heard it. This person calls himself Toxic MD. That says a lot right there, doesn't it? A lot of nurses and NPs sort of coming to my defense. A lot of physicians who bring up what I think are very valid concerns about what our scope actually is, who defines that. Again, plenty of respectful people on here who bring up concerns. Then just some, outright hateful people. I think that there are some people who are very threatened by the quote-unquote mid-level scope creep. A lot of nurses and NPs who do want full practice authority, who do want independence, who want to function as independent NPs. And that is what a lot of people talked about from both sides. But what's interesting is that I never said that in my video. Some really just aggressive and hateful people too. All right, so I think you see the gist of this. So I'm going to shut this part of the video down. Okay, so I stand on an island, and I know there are plenty of APRNs out there, people that I follow on social media, PAs, NPs, CRNAs, and we stand on this island, but we're sort of the minority. We're the people who fall right in the middle of these arguments. And on this side, we have nurses and NPs, and on this side, we have physicians. So I want to break down the arguments that each brought up, because if you're thinking about going back to school, the way that physicians view you and their willingness to hire you should directly impact your decision about where you go to school and the journey that leads you to that. Okay, so let me break down what people said, and then we'll come back to this in a minute. First of all, physicians. Okay, I'm on this island here. I stand on this island here. As I said earlier, I work in the world of acute care. To become an acute care NP, most of the programs I know of require at least 2 years working at the bedside. I firmly believe that. Go back and watch any of my videos. I've always supported that. Particularly if you want to work in ICU, you need years of experience. Okay, I'm not going to go into this. I've talked about it at length in other videos. That's what I believe. There are nurses and NPs on this island who don't support that. They're looking for the path of least resistance, the quickest way to get from A to Z. They're shortchanging themselves. their patients, the community, and the system, and weakening the profession. They stand on this island, and they argued with this group of physicians quite a bit on some of this. The other thing that I support on my island is rigor in education, and there are nurses and NPs, again, who are looking for value schools, who are getting sucked into the hype from the degree mills that are out there, and you all know they are. If it's easy to get into the program and it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So people who start from that place, people who come out of programs with almost no experience, who then desire full practice authority, working in a clinic or something like that. I don't know. This is not my arena, so I don't want to speak uneducatedly about this, but I know those people exist. Those people really piss off this camp of physicians. And I kind of get it. So I stand on this island, I am for nurses, I am for NPs. I love our profession, and we can add so much to the care as a part of a healthcare team. I don't support direct entry programs. I don't support shortchanging. I don't support you not taking your education seriously. I don't support lack of standardization in education and training, because we're talking about the practice of medicine without a medical degree. It's scary, and you should take it with the weight that it is. These are human lives. You trying to get from A to Z quickly is a threat to all of those people, including these physicians. Okay, they've gone to medical school, they've done years of residency and training for them to be able to practice independently. So for us to come in as NPs and say, I want independence without the training, you see the concerns? You see the concerns. They're there, okay? So my standing on this island, not in support of that, makes these people mad. On this hand, we have the physicians who are, and the physicians that responded to me on TikTok fall into several camps. The ones that I think were the most professional and respectful are the ones who bring up the point I just brought. You should not be practicing independently with human lives without proper training. And that's their argument. Because as a profession, our organizing bodies are not requiring standardized education and training across the spectrum of all the schools that are out there. So some schools prepare you well, other schools prepare you very poorly and put you out there into the world to take care of people. And so these physicians were quite outspoken about that on this TikTok. Mind you, that's not really what my TikTok was about, but that's where the discussion went. So that's why we're talking about it. Then you have the camp of physicians who are just mad. They're mad because they've maybe had a bad interaction with an APP or a situation. I don't know, but they've had some type of experience with APPs where they just don't like them. They don't like them, they don't want to work with them, and they shared a lot of really hateful things, and it's biased their opinion about us. I can't do anything about that group. Then you have the third camp, okay? These are the physicians who maybe the full practice authority and independence thing bothers them, but ultimately they come across as just feeling really threatened. That's what they come across as. These are the people who bring up the things like the mid-level scope creep, which is really a nasty thing, honestly, to say. I feel like that's very offensive, but that's what they say. And I know that's what they say amongst themselves. They feel that their profession, their career is very threatened by people who don't have to go through the extensive training like they do. Why would they want people with improper training to take over their job? And maybe it starts from that place of valid concern, but then it segues just into just outright hatefulness. Here's what I believe. I believe in a healthcare model with a physician at the helm and layers of support underneath that to fill in the gaps so that there is access to healthcare for all. I believe that we support each other. I believe that with proper leadership from physicians, we can actually perform very, very well. I think it helps control healthcare costs. And I think it addresses that lack of access to healthcare problem that we still have here in America. For those of you looking at going back to school, what I've learned from this experience is that there are way, way more endemic problems with physicians out there who do not desire that model. They don't want APPs at all, period. There are those that are there that are going to push back against us and that are resistant to our support. There are those who are willing to accept you, but you got to prove your worth. You cannot go to these subpar schools, these degree mills, and come out thinking that people respect that as rigorous education, because they don't. You cannot go back to school in a direct entry pathway and think that you're going to come out and have independent practice, because people aren't going to want to hire you for that. There's a lot of physicians who are resistant to this. Y'all, until there is standardization in our education, in what's required for clinical hours, and what's required for our education, and what's required for entry into these programs, they're not going to see us with the same level of respect that we think they do. And again, this is not the majority, because this is not the majority, but this is a lot more than I thought. Until all of those things happen, we have to take personal accountability, y'all. You have to do this the right way. You have to pay your dues at the bedside. You have to gain that foundation of nursing before you can progress to advanced practice nursing. If you understand disease processes, if you understand medications, if you understand tests and what's involved in them and why they do them, if you understand all that, then you can go back to school and start building on that foundation to get a basic understanding of how to diagnose and treat people, which is vastly different than nursing. But you got to have the nursing piece before you can build onto it and create the advanced nursing piece. One comes before the other. And I think this is true for all specialties. It doesn't matter if you're doing family practice. I still believe that you need nursing background to build on. And that's a very unpopular opinion, and I'm probably going to lose some subscribers over that, but I don't care. If that trajectory is too long for you or not desirable for you, go be a PA. Do it their way. They require much more clinical hours, and their training is much more standardized. You will have much more respect and have better odds of getting a job being a PA. Trust me. Direct entry NPs are going to find it harder and harder and harder to find jobs because of this problem of, ultimately it goes back to patient care, right? Let's give good patient care to start with. And then let's hold our education in the highest regards. It needs to be rigorous. And then it needs to be, you don't have respect from physicians. So they don't see you for what your worth can be. They're judging you on your training and your education because they don't know you from Adam. It's an unpopular opinion, but y'all, I gotta give you some tough love. You're weakening the profession by not doing things the right way. The second thing is, if you're looking at going back to school, you better darn well pick a good school. I say this all the time, but on the NP forums, I see post after post after post of how quickly, what's the cheapest route, what schools don't require GRE. Y'all, all of these people who are looking at going the quickest, easiest path of least resistance are not doing themselves, our community, or our patients any favors. It's hard. It's hard for a reason. You are transitioning from nursing care to medicine. You are learning to practice medicine without a medical degree, without 4 years of med school and 3 to 4 years, I don't know, however many years it takes to perform residency to do the specialty they do. You're skipping all of that. So the least you can do for yourself is pick a school with rigor and reputation who's going to prepare you properly so that you can function at the highest level with collaboration with a physician. And we can provide really good care and have really good reputation and have the respect that I firmly believe that our profession deserves. We have got to do everything that we can as a profession to strengthen ourselves, because this us versus them mentality, aside from it really hurting my soul, is not good for health. It falls upon us. And if any of you are interested in getting involved in AANP or ANCC regulatory organizations, go for it. Many of the recommendations I got from people were to do that, but here's the thing. I don't know about y'all, but I only have so many hours in the day. So I work full time. I have a family full time, and I do this a lot. So this is a platform that I choose to spread the message. But I encourage you, for those of you who are willing to get involved in these organizations, to advocate for standardization of training and education for our profession. We got to do better.